Hey everyone, welcome to what should technically be a cup of tea with Aoibhe Ni, but I have no cup of tea. I have instead some blackberry stained fingers because I'm out in the Irish countryside currently, down by our local river, the Broad Meadow, and I am picking a ton of blackberries with which I am going to make, I don't know, a mess at least, but hopefully some blackberry mead. We'll see how we're going. And while I'm here, I was thinking while picking, because there's something so wonderfully pensive and I don't know, it kind of helps your mind think while you're working on something small and repetitive like picking blackberries. And I thought I'd do a quick video about the importance of downtime. And this is something that I absolutely ensure that I include in my working day and my working week, ever since I had what could only be described as a complete and utter meltdown a few years ago, when I was working so hard and so consistently and so constantly that I simply couldn't get my brain to do anything. And I would be sitting in front of my computer trying to come up with a pattern, trying to write down an idea, trying simply to open a pattern so that I could do the chart that I knew how to do, but I just simply could not get my brain to do anything. And I would find myself hour after hour staring at the computer screen, either dithering or simply doing nothing and fretting and fussing and freaking out in a lot of cases about why I simply couldn't do these simple things that had come so easily for so long. And part of the reason was simply that my brain had had enough. I had exhausted myself entirely, and it was time, according to my brain, for a break. So you may notice there was a kind of a lull a few years ago in my pattern making. This was around the time of Torque and Nova, those two patterns, which to this very day, I'm sorry to say, I'm not a huge fan of, because they remind me of just how much effort and strength it took to actually get those out, and they're not my favourite. They remind me of a bad time, unfortunately. So I'm not a big fan of those ones. But they are also something that reminded me to take some time for myself. So now, after a busy working day like today, I've been working on the book all day, working on the layout and putting some of the articles in place and sending out emails for yarn support. And after all that busy work, I thought, what better way to spend a few sunny moments in the evening than deep in a thorny hedgerow picking blackberries to make things. And I think that's something that's very, very important. I think apart from the fact that it gives your brain a bit of a rest, it also ensures that you have other outlets for your creativity besides your main working one. It may seem like taking the time away for something like this would be very frivolous, but sorry, I was about to put this in my hair, but really it's actually extremely important. It is part of the day as far as I'm concerned. I sit down after a few hours busily focusing on charts, and I will make a shawl pin or two, or I will look up knitting patterns like this one to make for myself, or I will dye some yarn or felt a thing, or that kind of thing. And something else I want to talk about as well is the notion of gratitude when it comes to your creativity. And I think that is something that's really only occurred to me now that I'm standing out here and I'm picking blackberries. Because one of the things that I did all the time when I was young, and it was something I got from my granny, so it's a tradition at this stage, is that after picking blackberries, after foraging in the wilderness, the one thing you absolutely have got to do before you return home is to throw back some of what you have gathered. It's sort of a thank you to nature, really, for being there to feed you, and you're paying them back with a little bit, not only returning what you've taken, but paying back with your time and your labour and what you have taken as well. I think that was a river coot. So that's kind of an important part of this as well for me, and that translates into all my creative work now as well. When I get yarn support from some generous yarn company or dyer, if I have any left, I don't tend to keep that for myself. I tend to pass it on in the form of labour by making a gift for somebody, be it a cardigan for my niece, or a hat for a friend who's complaining about the cold, or most recently a cosy for my housemate's cafetiere, or something like that. I find it helps me and it keeps me going, knowing that what I have been given, what the yarn world has given to me in the form of these beautiful yarns, then gets passed on in the form of my labour. So it's a tradition of blackberries being thrown back in the hedges that I got from my granny being used in my professional day as well. So I hope that you have enjoyed this little look at my thorny hedgerows behind me and my very blackberry stained hands. That's only after about half a kilo. I've got a bit more to go before I have to go home. And I'll be doing this again over the next couple of days, I'm sure, because there's so many blackberries here. But in the meantime, I hope you have an interesting evening and a good time thinking about the notion of gratitude and how you might be able to use your creativity in the form of gratitude to give back or to pass it forward in some way or another. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Cheers.